Welcome back to another episode of Different Walks, Serious Talks. You're back here with myself, Jessica, Keisha, Farah, and Autumn. And today we're going to be talking about pro life and pro choice. We're going to be talking about the difference between the two, whether there are considerations based upon your background, and whether there should be some considerations even if you believe one or the other. First, let's get into what is pro-life and what is pro-choice? Like, what are we talking about when we say that? Um, Keisha, I think you actually would be a better person to really get into those topics than like to explain the topics than I am.
Oh, well, there's no pressure at all. Um, my understanding is that typically those that fall on the pro-life side believe that an abortion is wrong regardless of the circumstance. They would advocate for anyone and everyone to carry their baby to term. And if you decide you no longer want to be a mother or you didn't want to be a mother in the first place, perhaps consider giving your child up for adoption, but abortion is just not an option in their standpoint. A lot of people have religious beliefs that fuel this. Um, and as far as pro choice goes, that side tends to believe that it is up to the individual. There are considerations to be made, and that comes in different spectrums, whether it's like, I don't necessarily like the idea of an abortion, however, I can understand how it happens, to others that believe it's just a matter of autonomy. Choose whatever you like and whatever suits you. It doesn't have to have any type of nuance or caveats to it. And that's my understanding.
I think that's a good starting point. Because there is, just like any other topic we've spoken about so far, there's a spectrum of people who believe that pro-life is really, what you should be, and it can center around religious beliefs. It can center around what they believe is just thinking that a life is precious, regardless of when or where it starts. Um, but there's a lot to that discussion because, again, like you said, it um, believing that people have the right to, that a baby has the right to a life, at conception, and also the concept of when conception begins. Like, when does a baby's life begin at conception, or does it begin once it's viable? Once it's viable, does is that when we can say that it constitutes a life, or is it when it comes out of the mother? So a lot of that has to do, with what this discussion entails as well. Um, so for the record, I would say I'm very middle of the aisle. And so I will go, we'll go more into detail about that. But is anybody here, let's take a poll of us just to start out about pro-life and pro-choice. Does anybody have any really, like, um any really strong feelings one way or the other?
I always have strong feelings. That's just my thing. It
Okay.
don't matter
And
what
are
we
you
talk
are you
about, my
strongly
feelings gonna be
pro-choice
strong.
or pro-life?
I am strongly pro-choice. I believe if you don't wanna have an abortion, then you shouldn't get one. It's the same thing with gay marriage. If you don't like gay marriage, then don't get gay married. But it's not up to us to dictate what other people do with their lives and their bodies. I believe in women's choice. I believe in autonomy. I believe that that decision is very personal and nobody can make it for you, and nobody should pressure you either way. That's my take on it.
So I will say that I used to be strongly pro-life. Um, and I've had a lot of conversations with people. I've had a lot of, um, you know, thought processes that, like, I mulled over, and I'm further into the middle of the aisle. I will say I am gently pro-life, right? And that's a weird way to put it. I do think that life is precious, and we can't just throw it away. But I do think that there are so many considerations to be made. Whether somebody is able to carry to term, whether there are concerns about the mother, about the parents, about um, the child, and whether they have the ability uh, to say, or I guess I think there's a lot of underlying causes for the reasons why we have more abortions. And I think one of the big things to take into account is access to healthcare. So do you have access to the education around what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship? The education that what it looks like to have birth control at a young age, right? If you are interested in having sex, do you have access to birth control? Do you have access to the right materials for you to make those sorts of decisions? So I think that education is really the foundation, and I talk about communication every single show, right? I think communication about what our bodies do at a young age, and allowing people to understand a lot of the things around their own bodies will really like naturally bring down those numbers because they understand how to avoid, the ramifications that can come behind having sex at an early age and not using birth control. And they understand that they have a bright future in front of them. Those sorts of things, because a lot of times you see them in communities where
I will say that couple of points that I'd like to make is that one, I definitely value life. I believe that every life is precious, including the life of the person carrying said child, fetus, cluster of cells, however you want to phrase it. So just because I am strongly pro-choice, I just want to iterate that. I love children, I love babies, and I just want everybody to be happy and healthy. But I also understand that it's not my choice what other people do with their body. I feel like within reason, within the confines of just laws, people are allowed to do whatever they like, right? And I emphasize just laws because we've had laws that weren't always just, right? I would also like to point out that I don't believe necessarily that high abortion rates has a direct correlation with education or lack thereof. I feel like being able to choose and or um, getting an abortion has more of a correlation with the individuals in a way, yes, but I don't want there to be any type of what's the word I'm looking for? Implication that those that are ignorant or those with less resources tend to get more abortions. I don't think that's statistically sound. And I think it might be more rooted in a way that we view the topic, right? I think it might be skewed by our cultural beliefs. Um, so, yeah.
I don't necessarily think that well, let me put it this way. Having an education doesn't mean that you know about the right things to allow you to avoid what you need, or what needs to happen. So I think more education in general around your body, around sex, and less stigmatism, right? We don't want a stigma around having sex, around what birth control looks like, about around the social stigma of a woman who decides that she likes sex and wants to have sex with multiple people, right? Those things I think are more the education that I'm talking about. So we have to remove the stigma, educate people about what the ramifications of having sex is, because I know we've had this. It was part of a couple of episodes. I don't want to have sex with anybody who I would not want as the father of my children, right? I wouldn't, because I know that that is a possibility. And
Thing is,
so
I know women that are very educated, they're very sexually liberated, and just the opposite. I know women from all scopes. I've known married women that have gotten abortions. They've had children with their husband and wanted that child, but for other reasons they had to. So I just want to iterate that people get abortions across all lines of the spectrum. Um, white, black, you know, rich, poor, educated, and uneducated. There's so many different considerations that come with deciding to terminate a pregnancy. So you can be liberated or maybe more modest. You could be in a very committed relationship where that child was desired, but yet an abortion was necessary for you at that time, whatever the reason is. My whole thing is that's not my personal business, so I'm not going to make a judgment on anyone. So I just think it's important to emphasize that it's not something that's relegated to those that are ignorant or that are lacking education. Abortion is a crucial service that helps women of all different walks of life and all different socioeconomic statuses.
Yeah, and I think I get that, but I do think that we could address issues around it that would reduce the number. And I'm not saying that there are not people outside of that, but I do think that there are abortions that could be avoided. I knew somebody who used abortion as their form of birth control because they didn't wanna tell their mom they wanted birth control.
How expensive are abortions? I would think condoms are cheaper.
They were able to
Hell,
go to a clinic and get them, and so our local clinic was able to perform them for them, and I was like, "That's not." They stopped having abortions because they went to the clinic to get another one, and they were told, "Hey, if you have another one, you will not be able to have children."
I'm not
And so
sure if
that's
that's
what stopped
exactly
them.
accurate though. I don't think there's actually a correlation between the number of abortions that you have and fertility. Chemical
And
abortions
I
are
don't
very
know either.
safe. Procedural abortions, if you have a procedure in the same area again and again, like anything else, you are likely to, well, I shouldn't say likely, there is an increase that you might have scar tissue, but I'm pretty sure that percentage is like maybe 2%. The belief that multiple abortions and infertility is actually inaccurate. There's no
Yeah,
science that
I
really
don't know
supports
how,
that.
like, if there are any other factors around it, but that's why she stopped. She
I believe
she was
that person might have received misinformation. And it's
they
really
might
sad because
they
there's
might
a
have.
lot of misinformation out there regarding our health and our health needs. Chemical abortions are very safe. They are super safe to have. Procedural ones are also very safe. Now, if you are getting several procedural ones, I think the likelihood that you would get scar tissue in that area is maybe something along the lines of 2%. But it's not like it's a guarantee you're going to become, you know, infertile. That's a misconception. And unfortunately, that person received bad information, it sounds like.
And it's
And
entirely
whatever her
possible
reason for
to
stopping is, I respect it and I respect her choice either way. Do I personally agree with it each time, every time? Not necessarily. But again, I'm not that person. Some people are making do with the best that they have at the time. I don't know what her situation was. Maybe her mother was straight up abusive, physically, mentally. And if she came to her mother with that information, she would have risked a lot worse than getting those 4 abortions. I don't know, but it's not my place either to condemn her. My place is to say, "Girl, I respect it. I love you. I wish you the best," whatever that looks like for you, because it's not gonna look the same for every person.
and I get that, but I think what we're missing is the opportunity to address the issues that could help people by saying, "Well, I just want to make sure that you feel safe to do whatever." But I get that, and if somebody is making an informed decision, I agree. But I do think there are stigmas that are not allowing people to make the best informed decisions, and so
Honestly, I
I think
think a
it
lot of the things that oh, sorry. I shouldn't overtalk.
no,
Please continue.
no, you're fine. If if people are not making informed decisions, I just want them to have all the information that they could have. Like, what services could we provide to help make you more educated about what these things look like? Is there places that can provide birth control for free, regardless of age? Are there people that you can talk to, and to make you feel like you have body autonomy so that you know that you don't have to have sex. You can have sex if you want to. When you do, here's how to do it safely. Because a lot of people just don't know, especially from our generation. Now there's a lot more information. It's more widely available, with the internet being what it is. But when you're out trying things, if you don't have somebody to talk to about what those things look like and what those feelings are, it tends to be overwhelming. And so being able to allow people to have those resources and not just have the resources, but know that they're there, like know where to find them easily, and if we could provide those and not just say, "Hey, it's okay if you have an abortion, but hey, let's have these conversations before you think about having an abortion." What does that mean for you mentally? Is this gonna be, for the rest of your life? Will you be okay with that? And if you will be, that's 100% great. But I know several people who've had abortions and then they're like, "It was fantastic." It was what I needed at that time. And then I know several people who've had abortions and they're like, I still mourn my child, but they didn't have conversations before that. They were just told, "If you don't wanna have this baby, let's do it right now," kinda thing. And so if we had more conversations around it, we have so many resources already out there, but people don't know where they are, and people are rushed into decisions and
But for you and me, particularly, the way we were raised had a huge impact on how we saw abortion and how we governed ourselves. So we never even got pregnant to have the choice whether to get an abortion or not. So it's difficult to make a judgment on something that we've never had. I mean, luckily we were never raped either. I mean, I was raped, but I didn't get pregnant from that rape. So we never got pregnant from a rape. So we've never had the opportunity or it's not necessarily an opportunity. It could be a bad thing as well. But we've never had that particular chance to have to try to make the decision to have an abortion or not because mommy was so straightforward with us. Just like you're saying with the education itself, mommy's the one who educated us on our bodies. Mommy's the one who told us how our vaginas were treasures that only certain people can open up. And the way she taught us specifically, and she talked to us about birth control. So yes, it's good that if doctors or even educators in schools decided to go ahead and put this out there, but it's not just up to it's not just up to teachers or churches or doctors. It starts in home. It started with our mother. It's always very surprising to doctors when they ask, "Oh, my daughter was my very first pregnancy, and I was 39. There had never been an abortion. There had never been any miscarriages by Jesus's hand. They were surprised because that's very rare. And I believe it's because of how we were raised with our mother telling us, "Hey, this is your treasure. You don't just open up for anybody and you protect it with these gloves at all times." She instilled that in us, you know? So it's partially up to parents to start that. And whether we're pro-life or pro-choice, I can't really say because like I said, I don't have the knowledge to put my judge I can't judge in the first place, but I don't have that knowledge to put whether I'm pro-life or pro-choice because I have lost a baby recently, and that makes me feel like I'm pro-life because I can't imagine getting rid of a life. But then again, I've never been put in a situation or a trial where I had a health issue and had to get rid of a child, or I was raped and had to get rid of a child.
And
So
there's more
it's
reasons to
difficult to
do it than
say.
just
Yeah,
that.
it's difficult to say what I actually choose because I've never been put in that situation. I can't make that call on somebody else. I haven't walked in their shoes. That's just my stance. So,
That
yeah.
makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I do want to say, kind of going back to something that Jessica had said, is that people do deserve to have the right amount of education and resources. And those that are supported and have resources allocated tend to be able to make easier, better decisions because they know they have a support group, they have what they need, things are readily accessible. And at the end of the day, nobody should pressure you to do anything with your body. And I do mean anything, right? So, one of the things that I think would help us to have a more like just verdant society is that everybody was able to get the same quality education and had the same access to quality health care. And that would make a lot of our statistics change and not just regarding abortion, but pretty much every aspect of our life, and everybody is deserving of a that type of, like, human experience where you actually have the ability to make choices and feel supported and have the resources. Like, I believe we are all worthy of that. And if we live in a society that robs people of that, where you have to fight and struggle and scrape, it might be a lot more challenging to face certain things, including bringing another life into the world to try to feed and have to fight and scrape to help them along. There's a lot of different aspects in it. But I think if we had a structure that allowed every single person to feel supported and have a similar level of decency and quality in their life, we would see so many things turn around. Life expectancy, birth rates, all kinds of stuff. But you're putting people in really tough situations and then they have to make really tough decisions. And I'm gonna give them my love and support, whatever it is.
I don't know if you remember a couple episodes ago, Keisha. I can't remember if it was you or someone else. We talked about emotional intelligence and how it's starting to be prevalent in schools, and I think that will actually help. So
100%.
a lot of people aren't emotionally ready to have children, just like they're not emotionally ready to tackle life as teenagers or even as adults once you get out of college. A lot of even now, I'm in my 40s, and there's some days where I'm just confused about what my day is
Yeah.
doing.
I'm like,
So
why do they leave us out here unsupervised? Whose idea was this?
Adulting
right, like why am I an adult?
It's so hard.
If you look at the Bible, they lived well into their 800s. I'm pretty sure I'm still a child right now.
Okay.
You know.
800s is
I think emotional intelligence, teaching our children. Our mother was emotionally available, Jessica. So we were
Beautiful.
able to get a lot of things that a lot of people didn't. And in her emotional availability, she taught us how precious our vaginas were. And a lot of women don't realize that. They don't know there's a treasure sitting in the middle of their chest. So they give it away freely. But our mother drilled into us that, hey, this is a treasure. I shared it, a nice amount as a teenager and as a young adult, but I knew to go ahead and protect it while I was sharing. I was like, "Hey, you could peek in my chest, but you gotta wear gloves." So some teenagers don't get that. I think I was maybe 14 or 15. My mom, she looked at me and she was like, "Are you sexually active?" And I was like, yeah, maybe." And she's like, "We're not gonna sit here and pretend. We're gonna talk about this like adults. Do you need birth control? We're gonna sit here and have an actual conversation." And she did the same thing with Jessica when Jessica got to a certain age. She didn't sugarcoat it. She even told us, whether she enjoyed sex or not. She told us how normal it was. She told us we were gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. So along those mistakes, there are certain mistakes that are bigger than others. It's one thing to make a mistake and have sex with the wrong person. It's a whole nother mistake to have sex with that person with no protection. You know. So she went over all that. She went over how our emotions might go crazy, but we still have to protect ourselves. At the end of every conversation, that was pretty much it. But still protect yourself. Kind of like if you're gonna box, you box in a boxing ring, you don't just go in there with no gloves. You've got to have the gloves on. So, and she made a bunch of analogies and made sure that we knew. And hopefully a lot of mothers now will do the same, because it's perfectly natural for women to love sex. Back in the day, we did used to think it was taboo. But come on, realistically, we all know women love sex as much as men. So now that we know that, teach our daughters so that way they can make the informed decision and hopefully not have to make that difficult decision, whether pro life or pro choice. Because at the end of the day, regardless of who's judging you, you're the one who has to live with that decision. No one can live with that decision. Just like when somebody passes away, you're the one who lives with that regret or not or revenge. I don't know, whatever you want. Some people are actually excited to get abortions. They're like, "Hey, thank God I dodged a bullet." Whereas others are, "I will never live my life the same again." And that's with every situation.
yeah, we've gotta stop stigmatizing so many things. We stigmatize, like, "You gave up your kid? What? How could you give up your kid?" Like, that stigma is so terrible because it really does stick in somebody's mind, and it does sway their choice one way or the other. Like, they wanna hide the fact that they're trying to have abortion, or that they don't wanna have an abortion, and they do wanna give up their child. So there's so many stigmas around so many things for us as women, and what pregnancy looks like, and what having children, and what sex looks like, I think that's really the core of what I think about when I think about pro-life and pro-choice, is that if we broke through these stigmas and we allowed people to be who they are, and we allowed people to understand that sex is okay, understand that birth control is okay, understand that you have support groups, you have people that you can talk to, even if you don't have a mother like mine and Farrah's, and you don't have that person to talk to, there are other people that can be there for you, and that can be part of that support group, and talk through those feelings, and talk through, what all of that looks like. If we could have all of that happen, I think that, number 1, I really do think that abortions would go down, because we don't have that level of stigma. But I really do think that people would be more at peace when they do need to make that decision, and they would be able to make it from a more informed place.
I think it should go both ways, truthfully, because just like there are a lot of people who are uninformed to have the abortion, there are also a lot of women who can't take that stance to have the abortion. So that ends up in situations where babies are left at firehouses, or I don't know if y'all saw that meme that's going around right now. That guy, there were two men, I believe, with a dump truck. I don't know if it was a garbage truck or a recycling truck, but one of them was pretty much like, "Hey, it's ready to be compacted." Another one's like, "Do you hear that?" And they pulled a baby out of the trash. And in the video, it's showing the gentleman who pulled out the baby from the compactor. He's comforting the baby, and that's what the video is about him comforting the baby. But nobody talks about the poor mother who ended up in that situation. And I don't know what she went through to have to put her baby in the trash, but she's somewhere out there living with her decision. And I don't know if she's like losing it mentally, but obviously there's something in her life that she couldn't turn to somebody, just anybody, for support, whether it was getting an abortion or giving her baby away for an adoption. She didn't feel like she had those options. And that's pretty sad to me, that there are women out there who are having babies still in bathroom stalls. This is 2025, and we still have all these teenagers and sometimes adult women who don't know what to do when they're pregnant, and they hide it. And they still have the baby outside of medical care. And not that it's nothing wrong with not seeking medical care, because there's plenty of women who do at home births, but they do it with the right channels. They get that person who can help them with their home birth. But these poor women, even when they know they're pregnant, still don't seek the resources that we have available. They don't go to the fire station to drop off their child. They don't tell their parents or their husbands. They have them in some bathroom stall and leave them there. And that's more so, I think that we don't need to just be talking about the education of what to do with abortion. We need to be helping heal in general the whole population, that people feel so ashamed of anything. We should be able to live our lives and live with our choices, because at the end of the day, no matter who judges you, they're not living with your choice. But you will for the rest of your life. You will live with whether you had to give up your baby and put them in a trash. I can't even imagine what their mom is going through. Or you will live with the fact that you had to get an abortion and you didn't want one. Either way, there's shame in it. And it's sad that we shame people so much that people are still hiding to this day, whether pro-life or pro-choice, because these people could be either one. They could have lived all their life thinking that they're gonna burn in hell because they had an abortion, so they didn't, and they couldn't even handle it mentally. And now instead, they're gonna burn in their own minds. You know what I mean? So whether religion or not, we all need to feel safe, and that's something we're missing. We need to feel safe and that it's okay that we're
Safe and
still loved
supported.
regardless.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Well said.
As a society, we don't prioritize mental health enough. And we are going in that direction, right? We are, there's more talk about mental health. There's more support for it. Most companies have like programs that support paying for a portion of like mental health support. But even then, people still stigmatize it, and then you feel like you can't really seek it, and you see that a lot in men and women. Women are supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be able to take care of the home, take care of the kids, take care of the guy, do everything, do stack it all up, don't let it fall, you know? And then if we say, "Well, we need a mental health day." Ugh, geez. You need Okay. Well, if you need all of that to be able to do the things that you're supposed to do, you know, that sort of thought process kind of resonates with a lot of people, and it's ridiculous. Everybody needs to be able to be supported from a mental health standpoint. Like, we all get to a breaking point. We all have days where we can't give 100, and we just need some support. And so we need to make sure that we're being kind to each other. And so through this debate or any other, we on this podcast, we have already the thought process. Doesn't matter whether I agree with you or not. We have to be kind. We have to be respectful. We have to support each other. And then if we let that thought process proliferate through society, that would be amazing. We would be able to really understand where each other were coming from, and we would be able to support each other through these. Well, maybe I don't believe that you should have an abortion, but if you're having one, call me. I can be there for you. I'll show up to the hospital with you. Do you need a ride home? Do you need dinner? I'll cook you dinner for a month. Your freezer will be full. So be able to support people even when we don't believe the same things.
I would even challenge folks to leave the "I don't believe you should be getting it" part out and just say, "Okay, you need me, I'm there. I got you, sis."
Exactly. You don't have you can have the thought process without sharing
You could
it.
say, "You could keep it right here." Or you could do what like I do. Imma call Jessica, Imma call my sister and be like, "You know what? I thought that was dumb, but Imma show up for my girl anyway." My girl's not gonna know. 'Cause Jessica can keep a secret, you know what I'm saying? My sister can keep a secret. But, if you have to get it out, you don't do it to that person per se, you know what I'm saying? There's a time and place for everything, and if your friend or whoever is in a really vulnerable situation, that's not the time, nor is it the place for you to say, "Well, I didn't like that." Save it for your own private conversation, save it for your own private thoughts, but just show up for your friends, show up for your community because really and truly that's what we need. And I think by like what you ladies were saying was removing the stigma, removing the judgment, and having these open discussions like we're having now, we're helping break down those walls. Right? We're helping build a community. Like, I just gotta say, like, I really do admire you women. I know I've said it in the past, but I'm gonna say it again. I'm probably gonna say it with my dying breath. I admire you guys because you're sharing your stories so unabashedly, and this is stuff that we could not talk about back in the day, right? But you guys are coming on here for the world to see and saying, "This is what happened to me." And that's how you remove the stigma. People are gonna look at you and say, "Wow, she's still here, she's still standing. She's relatively normal, but that was her experience." And they're gonna understand there's nothing to stigmatize. We're all just humans doing the best we can with what we currently have. Some days you're going to be up, some days you're going to be down. At the end of the day, you're always going to be human and you're always deserving of support and love.
I love that you said that. People don't realize that regardless of what happened, you are deserving of support and love. You are deserving of somebody saying, "Yeah, I got you. Don't worry about the details. I got you." Like everybody should have somebody like that in their life, and if you don't, you know, you can reach out to resources to try to see where you can get that support, but you are deserving of it. Doesn't matter what else has already transpired, right? Even if you feel like, "Well, I shouldn't have." Okay, moving forward, let's get support through this phase, and then just do things differently if you don't feel like you did it right, or figure out why you did what you did, right? Like
Yeah.
if you made a decision to keep a child, that you don't think you should have kept, right? We don't talk about that enough either. We don't talk about the fact that some people, because of religion, because of some form of duty, decide to keep a child, and then that child has a horrible life, right? They are told that they were never wanted. They're told, "Hey, I should have got rid of you." They were treated horribly, and it's because that mother was stigmatized because they didn't want somebody to say, "Oh man, you got rid of your child." Like, we have to have those conversations too. We have to make
Or
people
worse,
There's
to
even
comfortable.
snap
there's
and
women
treat
that
their children.
wanted to be mothers. They dreamed about being moms, and then when it happened, they were like, "I was wrong. I don't even
Right?
like this."
This is
Like, it
not this is
happens.
not what I thought.
Right? And some people be like, "Okay, maybe it's just the postpartum depression, it'll pass," but it's never passed. They do continue to do things out of a sense of duty, but it wasn't something that they enjoyed, and that's nothing for us to cast judgment upon. I feel like life is just a series of readjustments. You might go into a situation thinking it's gonna be one thing, it turns out it's totally different. That's okay. But it is important for you to seek the help that you need, have the support that you need to live, to learn, to readjust, and try your best, like, even if you've been traumatized, not to pass the trauma on to the next person. Seek help, get the support you need, have wonderful, healthy boundaries. If you're like, "I can't show up for my kid the way I would like to," I'm not saying you have to give your child up for adoption, but maybe you create a kind of support system. Listen, I'm not the motherly type, but you know what? Farah is. Go to your auntie house for a little bit. You know what? I'm not always the best with words. Go see Tia J. I don't know how to cuss this person out quite the way you need me to cuss him out, but I know Autumn can pop up at that school and let all them people know not to mess with this baby. And that's all right. If you have to
Another
figure out
time.
not one more another tongue, because I swear to God, I don't come down there, use a bunch of cuss words you ain't even never heard before. But sometimes that's what it's going to look like. And that's okay. I can't do all the things. I'm not even good at it. I'm not even going to pretend like I want to be good at it. But you know what? I can turn to my sisters. I can turn to my community. I could turn to my spouse and be like, listen, you're going to have to be the one to take the lead on this because this just isn't for me. I thought it would be, but it's really not. That's okay.
There's a lot of times where I'll actually tell my daughter, that's not a me and you activity. That's a you and Papi activity.
I'm not built for
'Cause I
this.
already know. Before I even had her, and I'm sure one day she'll find out that what during my gender reveal, I busted out crying. I was so scared to have a girl, dear Jesus. I didn't know if I could do it. I just always knew in my heart that I was made to be a boy mom because I'm not that girly. Like, purses, makeup, all that stuff. I still don't know how to apply lipstick the right way without it getting all over. You got to get the tissue and fix it, and then you messed up the whole top of the lip, and you got to start all over. Yeah, that's just not for me. But I could be like, that's something for Auntie Keisha. Go over there, 'cause mommy doesn't know how to file your nails. What are you
Tia
talking
J.
about?
Not today.
Yeah, Tia J will teach you about the emotions.
Teacher.
Sometimes when she has some of her emotional outbursts, I can't lie. I'm very empathetic to a certain point, but I've never really done the crying thing ever since we were little. Since we were little, I've told kids, suck it up, because I don't want to cry with you. I will cry with you, and I don't like that. So stop it. Just stop crying. Stop it. So sometimes I'll be like, it's okay for you to cry. Just go do it by Tia J.
Yeah,
Because mommy,
Tia J
mommy
got it.
can't handle it. Mommy feels like she's about to lose it. I'm gonna pull out my hair. I can't take the crying stuff. So sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you might have to send them to their grandparents or to their neighbors because there's a lot of stuff you don't know what you can and can't handle. I wasn't sure I could handle being patient. I'm slowly learning. There's some days I tell her we'll learn patience together. Because
Yes. Oh my
there's a
goodness.
song by Megan Trainor and she talks about all the patience her mom had, and I'm like, I wish I had that patience. But let's be realistic, I don't. So, since I know that I can't do that for my baby and I feel like she actually deserves it, all I could do is work on it. No one's perfect. I'm not going to be the best mom. I didn't get pregnant and all of a sudden God was like, you're the perfect mother. It
Doesn't
just didn't
happen.
happen. I'm human.
It don't happen to
I'm
nobody.
human and I have almost 40 years before I had my baby that I got to get stuck in my ways. It's a lot to break. And I'm sure no matter how old you had your children, there's something that you probably got stuck in that probably wasn't kid worthy. And that's okay. It's okay. You're only human.
You're only
Stop
human.
shaming yourself. That's the worst problem, I think, out of anyone who is a mom, auntie, anything. Shaming yourself. It's just detrimental to everybody, not just
Yeah.
you, the people around you. You're sitting there putting off negative vibes and it's just leaking through to the next person because you can't get your shit together. Stop.
And this
Stop
is
shaming
before
yourself.
and
It's
after you have
okay.
a kid. It's not just after you have the kid. There are some pregnant women out there who are like, "I don't know how I'm just not I'm not cut up. I'm not a good person. I'm not a," and they down themselves the entire pregnancy. Like, I just see, I can't even put a peanut butter and jelly sandwich together properly. I can't cut these crusts off. Like, it's
Good is
so
gray.
petty.
You know how they always
It's so
like the world
petty.
is black and white to some people? Good is gray. There's no such thing because good is in the eye of the beholder. It's a perception that you grew up with, and some people be like, "Oh, you're weird." I'm only weird because it's not your normal.
Yeah.
Good is gray.
Autumn
Just
has
saying.
not said a single thing the entire episode. She really think she just gonna sit. She think she could just sit there and look pretty. We know you pretty. We see
Yeah,
it.
see? What is going on? Go ahead. What's your opinion,
Don't
Glory?
know. You can't out cutesy this though. You still got to say words, Autumn. Nice try, Autumn.
Why you gotta put me on blast?
Because we're like those
Well,
two kids you
look,
shouldn't sit next together in class. I'm
I'm
gonna mess
pro
with you,
I'm
and you gonna make me
pro-choice.
laugh. So I'm gonna keep messing with you.
I'm pro-choice, and I resonate with a lot of what Keisha was saying at the beginning. This topic has a lot of moving pieces. Yeah, I'm just sitting back in the cut, and that's my stance.
Thank you, Autumn. That was really good. How did you?
Of course, I agree with you.
I'm not gonna lie. I do love it when people agree to me. I do, but I will also say that was I waited a long time. That's it, Autumn. How did you come to this standpoint, love? What built your view around this? Has it ever been shaken? Tell us more, please. I want to know what's
No,
going
I
on inside your
just
mind.
everybody has a right to the full autonomy. I can't live my life based on what somebody else think I should do, and vice versa. Everybody makes choices based on their needs and wants at the moment. I believe abortion is a control tactic that was created by the patriarchy, and they now trying to remove it. Trying, they are, it's a control mechanism over women. Period, point blank. They want to control our bodies. It's a form of controlling our bodies, what we can and can't do with our bodies. I'm pro-choice, so you ain't gonna tell me what I can and can't do, because you're not gonna be there with me if I need help with the child and so on and so forth.
100%. People telling you got to have this kid, but when the kid comes out, who's helping pay the bills? The hospital bill, the daycare bill, the feeding the baby every day bill. They're not with you at that time,
It's a
but they're going
lot.
to tell you what to do and
It's a
how to
lot.
do it. It
It's a
is a
mo
lot. It is a lot. And
like I
it's
said,
not just the money. It is the mental, it is the emotional. I'm going to tell you guys a story. This is not based in science, but I 100% believe it. I'm going to tell you anyway. So, my mother is one of many children, okay? I believe my grandma had anywhere from 9 to 13 children. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry, Grandma. I love and respect my ancestors. Anywho, um, but I think on the last pregnancy, and this was in Haiti, her doctor told her, after I believe having 9 or 13 other pregnancies, if you have another kid, it is going to kill you. Every time you have a child, it takes some of your life force away. So this is an island doctor many years ago. Can we corroborate this with science? I don't know. But again, I still believe it. It is very taxing, not just physically, emotionally, financially. There's so many aspects to it. So just to piggyback on what you're saying, Autumn, let people choose what's right for them. We shouldn't be dictating what they are doing. That is their personal journey that they have to walk through. Autumn, because I'm not done picking on you yet. I just love seeing your face do the thing that your faces do. What were you gonna say?
No, I mean, when you were saying about your grandmother, I know this last pregnancy with my baby was very taxing. Very. I've experienced a whole lot of stuff that I didn't experience with my other two baby boys.
Yes.
So it's a lot. And then we as women are left holding the bag, period, point blank. At the end of the day, spouse or no spouse, boyfriend or no boyfriend. At the end of the day, we're the ones holding the bag, taking care of the child. And sometimes you have foresight to realize I can't take care of myself. I'm going to take care of another human being. Everything's based on choices. Good
Yeah.
choice, bad choice is it's up to the individual, and that's my stance.
Has your
So that,
stance ever changed? Did you always have this way of thinking, or did this change over time?
No, I'm pretty pro-choice, you know.
This have been.
Oh, yeah.
so I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but so that brings up the question, do you guys think that a man should have any say in, whether a woman has an abortion? So if he wants the child, should he have any say in it?
He
So
has
he
I
a
don't know
say.
that.
I
I don't know
think
how
he
that.
has a say, but it's not the final determining word on the thing. I think if you care about this person, you should have that conversation. You guys can mull it over together, but ultimately the choice lies with whoever is actually the pregnant individual. You have a say. It's just not the final one. Your thoughts, your feelings should be considered, even considered greatly, I'll say, because you're a human being and you're deserving of respect. However, the decision ultimately lies with the woman carrying the child. It might hurt you to know that this happened. However, it's still just not up to you. And if you're struggling with that, I think your feelings are very valid. They're very real. And you should absolutely get the support and help that you need to work through it. Because there are things that happen in our lives that are out of our control. And whether a woman terminates a pregnancy or not, that's one of those things. You don't get to control all of it. You don't get to control her body, no matter how invested you are in the situation. And I know it sucks and sometimes it just hurts and it's unfortunate, but that is the reality. There's things that happen that we can't control, and that's just one of them. But know that your feelings aren't any less valid. Know that you are still very much important and that you should be cared for during that difficult time.
I think that what Keisha's saying as far as listening to their opinion is correct, but at the end of the day, what a woman goes through to have a baby, your hormones are going crazy. So he has to take into consideration, especially if she has any health issues, um, and how it's impacting her, especially if she has not just physical health issues, but mental health issues, how it's going to impact her. Because just having a baby, your hormones change immediately as soon as you get pregnant, right? But on top of that, then they change again when you have the baby, and they continue to change after having a baby. So, as much as I don't want to hurt your feelings, it's up to me to decide if I want my body to go wonky. Because you're not going to be the one to sit here and be like, oh, let me be patient. She's going through a hormonal change. No, 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 no. Because after so many arguments, you're going to be like, well, I'm tired of your attitude. Good for you. I had your baby. Thank you so much for being supportive. Great. Thank you for not relying on my hormones and saying, I just need to get over it. Because at the end of the day, you will never understand what I'm going through, whether it's postpartum or just regular hormonal changes.
adjacent question to that though, so then if women are allowed to, on their own, make that decision, can men opt out of caring for the child if they didn't want it?
They do all the time, but so do
But
moms.
can they
Moms
but
do
do
too.
you think that they should be able to not be subpoenaed for, for childcare, all of that? So should they be forced to
No, but they can opt to have a vasectomy before having sex freely.
I mean, so women can too, though. Women could use other forms of birth control, right? So that's the question that generally gets asked when we talk about
But
this.
see, that's the thing. Yes, we can opt to do birth control, but that's also why we can opt to do the abortion. It's our body. If they don't want to help with the child, snip, snip, bruh. Go ahead and take care of that. Like, you don't want to take care of the baby? Make sure there's no seed to plant. That's all I could tell you.
They
At
could
the
say,
end of the
"Well,
day, I'm
make
not
sure
gonna
there's no
take
field to
Plan B
plant
every
it."
time you make an accident. So if you really, 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 really don't want to take
I
care of a
I'm
kid,
just playing
make
devil's
sure there's no
advocate,
seeds to
but
plant.
that's really the question that gets asked the most when we have this conversation is if a woman can on her own make the decision to terminate a pregnancy, why can't a man then make the opposite decision to opt out if he wants her to terminate it, she does not, and she has the baby and he doesn't want to participate.
Because he could have opted to go ahead and get rid of his seed beforehand. If he was really
She
that
put it
worried, he
she
would have
put
went
the
ahead and
glove
wore
out.
the glove. You didn't wear the glove, and if you wore the glove and it sat there and came through anyway, that's God's plan, bruh. Like
And
seriously,
if they don't believe
you
in
wore
God,
the glove and she still got pregnant. That's God's plan.
and if she doesn't believe in God,
Miracle
and if he
exception.
doesn't believe in God, what
If
is
he
it?
doesn't believe in God or she doesn't believe in God, that's
Both.
hey, that's not up to me to judge. I have no say in that. But
So
I
either
will
way,
how
say
do they
if
how do
I
they
will say that the law is on the opposing side of that argument. The law dictates that the father has a legal obligation to support that child, not the child's here. Even if you said, I didn't want it, I told her I didn't want it, I tried to get her money for the abortion, the law does say you still have to financially support that child. And now, am I saying this out of do I think the law is coming from a moral standpoint? I doubt it. It's probably because they don't wanna have to support the child. They're like, "We don't have to pay for that kid, so you gotta pay for this kid."
you
But
pay
maybe
for
it
it?
is. Maybe there is some. I don't know.
but
But the
just like
law is
we
on
teach
the
the educators,
opposing side.
just like when we were talking about earlier how ours is treasure, their seed is treasure as well. That's that golden seed. You shouldn't just be spreading it and being like, well, I spread my
They
seed.
spread it
Oh,
far and wide.
well, now
Why? They
you've got
don't
to
care.
take care of the harvest. No, baby. If your seed is that important, you've got to take care because when harvest comes, you've got to be there to go ahead and help. So if you really feel like your seed is that much of a treasure, don't go planting it everywhere. Find a secret place, a secret place for you and your special someone. Until then, protect your seed. And hopefully, not just fathers should not be the only one teaching this because I know quite a few moms who are like, oh, well, boys will be boys. No, 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 no. You should be teaching them to wrap up. Get that banana and teach them how to put on a condom. Be responsible for your sons, ladies. If the father's not there, that's okay. You could teach him something. You could teach him that it's not okay that you got that treatment and it's not okay for him to treat women like this. It's not okay for a man to have 16 baby mamas. Now, I understand that accidents will happen and some people were taught better and don't do better. And some people, they did wrap up and like I said, their seed got through God's plan. They still end up with 4 baby mamas. But at the end of the day, a lot of those men, surprisingly, I see more men that have a lot of children taking care of their children than men who only have one or two. I see men that have 9 children giving 9 checks versus that one man who's like, I didn't consent. It doesn't matter. He didn't consent either. He got 9 babies from 3 women, but he's sitting there giving $5, $10 here, whatever he can. But you have one and you can't even give $5? Like, are you serious?
So I
And
can
then
see that
20
I
years
think the
later, you want
smaller
to
portion
regret.
that don't that are, pushing hard against, this thought process. Because I do think more than ever we have men who are active, who are trying to be part of their children's lives. So it's sort of the loudest people are of the smaller denomination who are just pushing back against the idea of, it's always the loudest people that we see. Um, I do think more than ever we do have fathers who are active, who are present in a really meaningful way. So I will say that. So
It's
it's
respect.
more of a like a devil's advocate question. Like what about the guys who are screaming about, well, if I didn't want it, then I told her to get rid of it. And there are some guys who till their last breath will say, I'm not taking care of that kid. So
But
Where do you fall on the argument?
just
mm,
as much as the man has the right to either take care of his child, sometimes they don't. He has the right to know he has a child. I know a lot of women, unless you're being abused by that man, There is no reason to hold a child from a father. There's no reason for you to be like, oh, you can't see him because he won't give me child support. I understand he's not giving you that child support and it's difficult, but it has nothing to do with the baby. Please don't hold them from their father. Come on, women. Don't do that. Especially if a man is trying to take care of his son, like trying to see his daughter. How can you as a woman, especially if your father wasn't there, be like, okay, well, you can't see your father because he's on my nerves? Are you serious? That is ridiculous. Because there are a lot of men trying to sit there and see their children, and a lot of women like, no, no, you can't.
Men have
And a
had
lot of men don't
a
even
lot of
know what
women
laws
call out.
that's on their side. So they sit there and they take it, and the child gets too old, and then they're disliking their fathers, and it's not okay. And even worse, mothers that talk bad about their children's fathers. Let your children decide whether their father's a good person or not. Because all that bad talk may blow back on you one day. She may remember, or he may remember, all my mother did was talk bad. Can never see the positive side. So don't sit there and talk bad about the children's father. That's between grown-ups anyway. Don't talk bad, talking about, oh, he's a deadbeat dad anyway. He don't help with this and that. That child don't care. A father's a father. So badmouth them all you want, but they're gonna make their own decisions. Just remember that.
And so pulling it back to like pro-life and pro-choice. We've kind of gone down a different avenue, but it's all adjacent, right? When we talk about the pro-life and pro-choice decisions, because that's one thing that really is an input that we hadn't touched on yet is the support of your other partner. And I do think that can be an input to whether or not you feel like you need to keep or get rid of, in that sense. You're like, "Oh, no, I can't. I either don't have the support or they wouldn't wanna have this child, or they would wanna have this child. Maybe I need to keep this child." So those sorts of considerations can be an input into that conversation as well. We talk about, about what parenthood looks like, but it is part of that discussion. So, in the comments down below, let us know. Are you pro-life or pro-choice? Are there any other considerations that we didn't talk about for the conversation of pro-life and pro-choice? Or do you think that if you are pro-choice, do you think that maybe it should be 100% pro-choice, or do you have some considerations? If you're pro-life, do you think that there should be considerations from a legal standpoint, if we're talking about pro-life? Because that's also a very important of that part of that conversation is considerations for rape, incest, and that sort of thing, and of course the mother's ability to carry to term. And should men have a say? Should men be able to tell us whether or not we can have abortions, and should they be able to have any legal standing, or should it just be a conversation between us and the father? Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Different Walk Series Talks. See you next time.